This isn't about skill, and it's definitely not about who's the best Minecraft player. Because if Hermitcraft was about being the best, it would look very different. Most servers reward efficiency, fast progression, perfect mechanics. Hermitcraft doesn't, and that's not an accident. Here's the part people miss. On most SMPs, being good means being ahead. Better gear, more farms, faster results. On Hermitcraft, being ahead doesn't automatically make you interesting. Sometimes it does the opposite, because Hermitcraft isn't built around winning. It's built around coexisting. That changes how skill even works. You can be incredible at redstone, PvP, or building, but if what you're doing doesn't interact with anyone else, it kind of floats in its own bubble, and bubbles don't create stories. This is where Hermitcraft quietly filters players, not by talent, but by awareness. The players who thrive aren't always the most skilled. They're the ones who understand timing. When to push an idea, when to step back, when to let someone else take the spotlight. That's not something you can grind. You either feel it or you don't, and Hermitcraft rewards people who feel it. Here's something interesting. If you watch enough seasons, you'll notice that the most memorable moments aren't the most impressive ones. They're the ones that involve friction, a misunderstanding, a small disagreement, a joke that goes slightly too far. Those moments don't come from being the best player. They come from being present, from paying attention to the room. On a server like this, raw skill is just a tool, not the goal. And when skill becomes the goal, everything starts to feel forced. Hermitcraft avoids that by never asking players to prove themselves. No ranking, no scoreboard, no pressure to outperform. That absence is powerful because it gives players permission to slow down, and slowing down changes how people create. Instead of asking, how do I win this season? If they ask, how do I fit into it? That shift is subtle, but it's everything. This is why you'll sometimes see players intentionally choose the less optimal option. Not because they don't know better, but because the optimal choice doesn't serve the story. And on Hermitcraft, story matters more than efficiency. That's also why comparing Hermitcraft players by skill misses the point. It's like ranking actors by how loudly they can speak. It ignores context. A quiet performance can carry more weight if it lands at the right moment. Hermitcraft is built for those moments. Another thing people underestimate is restraint. Being good at Minecraft often means doing more. Bigger builds, more systems, faster progress. Hermitcraft rewards doing just enough. Knowing when something is finished, even if it could be optimized further. That kind of restraint looks simple from the outside, but it takes experience to pull off, and it's invisible to people who only look for stats. This is why best player conversations feel off in this community. They apply the wrong metric. Hermitcraft doesn't ask who's the strongest. It asks who understands the space they're in, who adapts instead of dominates, who listens instead of rushes. That's also why newer players sometimes struggle early on, not because they're bad, but because they're still playing by a different rulebook. Once that clicks, everything changes. Their content slows down. Their choices become more deliberate. They stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. That's when Hermitcraft starts working for them. And that's the part you can't speed run. You can't shortcut awareness. You earn it by being there, watching how things unfold, and adjusting without being told to. So no, Hermitcraft isn't about being the best player. It's about being the right player for the moment you're in. And that's why skill alone is never enough here. Because on this server, understanding people matters more than understanding the game. There's another layer to this that doesn't get talked about much. On Hermitcraft, being the best can actually work against you. When someone is too far ahead, they stop being part of the ecosystem and start orbiting outside of it. Other players hesitate to interact, not out of fear, but because the gap feels awkward. And Hermitcraft thrives on interaction. That's why you'll often see players intentionally stay within reach of each other. Not equal, just reachable. Reachable enough for collaboration. Reachable enough for conflict. Reachable enough for jokes to land. That balance matters more than dominance. Another thing Hermitcraft quietly teaches is adaptability. Servers with clear goals reward specialization. You become the PvP guy or the redstone guy or the builder. Hermitcraft doesn't lock people into roles. Roles emerge naturally and then dissolve just as easily. The players who do best are the ones who can shift without friction. One season they're chaotic, the next they're reserved. Sometimes they lead, sometimes they support. That flexibility is a skill, but it's not a Minecraft mechanic. It's a social one. And social skill is harder to measure, which is why it gets overlooked. But on Hermitcraft, it's often the deciding factor. There's also the audience side of this. Viewers don't stay because someone is flawless. They stay because someone feels human. Mistakes matter. Second guesses matter. Moments where plans don't quite work matter. If everything goes perfectly, there's nothing to lean into. Hermitcraft leaves room for imperfection, not as a flaw, but as texture. That texture is what makes long seasons watchable. Another misconception is that Hermitcraft discourages ambition. It doesn't. It just reframes it. Ambition isn't about scale, it's about intention. A small idea that connects people can outweigh a massive project that stands alone. Hermitcraft rewards ideas that ripple outward, things that invite response, things that spark reactions, things that leave space for others to add their own layer. Being the best player doesn't guarantee any of that. Sometimes it gets in the way. Because when you're focused on execution, you miss opportunities for collaboration. And collaboration is where Hermitcraft really lives. That's why some of the most impactful moments come from players who aren't trying to impress anyone. They're just responding honestly to what's happening around them. That honesty is contagious. It pulls others in, and suddenly a small interaction becomes a storyline without anyone planning it. That's not luck. That's awareness meeting timing. And Hermitcraft is built to reward exactly that. If you strip everything down, Hermitcraft isn't asking, how good are you at Minecraft? It's asking, how well do you read the room? How well do you sense when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to escalate and when to let something breathe? Those decisions don't show up in stats, they don't fit in thumbnails, but they're the reason certain seasons feel memorable even when nothing big happens. That's also why comparing Hermitcraft to competitive servers always feels slightly wrong. They're optimizing for different outcomes. One optimizes for efficiency, the other optimizes for longevity. And longevity requires restraint. It requires players who understand that not every moment needs to peak. Sometimes holding back creates a better payoff later. Hermitcraft gives players permission to do that. And the ones who succeed are usually the ones who take advantage of it. So when people ask who the best Hermitcraft player is, the question misses the heart of the server. Because the answer changes depending on the moment. The best player today might not be the best player tomorrow. And that's intentional. Like Hermitcraft isn't a ladder to climb, it's a space to exist in. And in that space, being aware beats being dominant every single time.